Hey everyone. Have you ever noticed how some social gatherings, they kind of leave you feeling totally energized, ready for more, but then others, you're just wiped out, like you need a week-long nap just to recover?
Mhm.
I mean, I know I've been there.
Hmm.
It really makes you think about how we're all wired so differently.
It really does. And that's what we're diving into today, right? This whole idea of personality. Why are some of us drawn to a quiet night in with a good book while others are out there hitting every party? It's fascinating.
It is. And we're zeroing in on those terms we hear all the time, introvert and extrovert. Like, we use those labels so casually. But do they even really capture the full picture of who we are?
I don't think so. Most experts would agree that it's way more nuanced than just being one or the other. It's not just a simple on-off switch, right?
Totally. And that's exactly what we're going to unpack in this deep dive. We're going to explore the ins and outs of introversion, extroversion, and then there's that whole middle ground, the ambiverts. There's a lot to uncover here for sure.
Yeah, and to really understand this stuff, we have to go back a bit, to the roots of these concepts. Back in 1921, there was this Swiss psychoanalyst, Carl Jung, who first introduced these ideas of introversion and extroversion to the world.
Right, Young. He basically saw them as fundamental ways that people kind of direct their mental energy, like how we recharge our batteries, so to speak.
Exactly. He initially thought introverts focus their energy inward on things like deep thinking and being alone, while extroverts kind of throw their energy outward towards socializing and engaging with the world. He even believed that those activities, the ones they naturally gravitated towards, were actually what gave them energy.
Interesting. So it wasn't just that they liked doing those things, but that it actually fueled them up.
Right. But as you can imagine, he kind of realized pretty quickly that, well, people are more complex than that, right? They don't always fit neatly into these perfect little boxes. He realized that introversion and extroversion weren't these absolute black and white categories.
Yeah, human behavior is rarely that simple. So then, after Jung, how did these ideas evolve? Who picked up the torch, so to speak?
Well, another psychologist, Hans Eysenck, he kind of built on Jung's work, shifting the focus a bit to look at the level of stimulation that introverts and extroverts need to feel comfortable.
Stimulation. That makes sense. So Isaac was saying that introverts are more at ease with lower levels of external stimulation, while extroverts actually need more of that buzz to thrive. It's like, think about it this way. Some people love working in a quiet coffee shop, while others need the energy of a bustling co-working space to get their creative juices flowing.
Exactly. And what's really cool is that modern brain science actually offers some support for Eysenck's thinking. Brain scans have shown that introverts tend to have a thicker prefrontal cortex. That's the part of the brain that's all about planning and deep thinking.
So it's almost like the brains of introverts are literally wired for more intense internal processing. But then what about extroverts? How do their brains compare?
Well, some research suggests that extroverts might be wired for more impulsive action. It's like their brains crave more immediate rewards and external stimulation to feel satisfied.
That's fascinating. It's almost like our brains themselves have a slight preference for one way of being over the other. But okay, let's really dive into what it means to be an introvert, because there are so many misconceptions out there.
For sure. Introverts are often seen as quiet, reserved, and deeply focused on their inner world. They spend a lot of time in their own heads, thinking things through, processing their feelings, and observing the world around them.
And a key thing to remember is that social interaction can actually be draining for introverts, unlike extroverts who get energized by it. It's like, that feeling after a really great party, but you're just completely exhausted?
Hmm.
That might be your introverted side talking.
Totally. So because introverts need less external engagement to feel balanced, you might see other traits too, like preferring to listen rather than dominate a conversation, learning by watching and reflecting, having a smaller circle of close friends, and working best on their own. They often shy away from the spotlight and can easily feel overwhelmed in environments with too much stimulation.
It's like their energy is a finite resource that they have to manage carefully. They need that downtime to recharge and process everything. And it's also really interesting that introverts tend to be very self-aware and introspective.
Yeah, they spend a lot of time examining their own thoughts and feelings, trying to understand their motivations and experiences on a deeper level. Some research even suggests that they might experience emotions more intensely than extroverts, which can make it more challenging to navigate those feelings sometimes.
And then there's that whole zoning out thing that introverts sometimes do, especially in chaotic or stressful situations. It's like they need that mental escape to kind of regain their equilibrium.
Right. And we have to be super clear about This being introverted is not the same as being shy or socially awkward or having social anxiety. It's fundamentally about how someone processes their surroundings and manages their energy, not about their social skills.
Exactly. Some introverts can be incredibly skilled in social situations. They just find that those situations drain them over time, while extroverts thrive in them. It's a really important distinction to make.
Absolutely. And just like extroversion, introversion exists on a spectrum. Some people have a really strong preference for introverted activities and environments, while others have more of a mix of introverted and extroverted tendencies.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about introverts. Let's flip the script and talk about extroverts. What are some of the hallmarks of being an extrovert?
Well, in contrast to introverts, extroverts are generally much more outwardly focused. They really thrive on interaction with other people. And since they actually gain energy from being around others, they actively seek out those social engagements.
Yeah, they're the life of the party, so to speak. They light up when they're surrounded by people.
Exactly. And being alone for too long can actually make them feel restless or even a bit down. They're often comfortable striking up conversations with strangers, they love being in large groups, and they're usually the ones organizing social events.
They just have this natural ease in social settings. It's like they don't even have to think about it.
Right. You'll also often see other traits associated with extroversion, like expressing their thoughts and feelings openly, talking through problems to get advice, being more spontaneous and adaptable, and having a more optimistic outlook. They generally don't dwell on problems for too long.
And our sources actually connect this back to how the brain's reward system works. Research suggests that extroverts might be more inclined to take risks because their brains release more dopamine, that feel-good chemical in response to positive outcomes in social interactions.
That's right. It's like they get a bigger dopamine hit from those experiences, which keeps them coming back for more. The theory is that introverts, on the other hand, can get overstimulated by too much dopamine, which is why they might not actively seek out those same levels of novelty and excitement.
But again, it's important to remember that extroversion is also a spectrum, and many extroverts still need some quiet time to recharge too. It's about finding the right balance.
Absolutely. And speaking of balance, that brings us to those who identify as ambiverts. They're kind of in that sweet spot between introversion and extroversion, exhibiting a blend of both.
Ambiverts, they're like the chameleons of the personality world,
Yeah.
right? Adapting to whatever situation they're in.
In a way, yeah. Think of someone who loves going to a party and connecting with people, but also deeply values quiet time at home to read or just be alone with their thoughts. They need a bit of both worlds to feel balanced.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. It's like they can tap into both energy sources, but they have to be mindful of managing them in a way that works for them.
Precisely. And this adaptability is one of their greatest strengths. They can adjust their behavior to fit the situation, knowing when to be more social and outgoing and when to be more reserved and reflective. It's like they have this built-in flexibility.
So what are some other signs that someone might be an ambivert?
Well, they might enjoy socializing but also find it tiring. They might have many friends, but only a few really close ones. They might enjoy working independently and also collaborating as part of a team. They appreciate both lively conversations and comfortable silences.
It's like they can appreciate and navigate both ends of the spectrum. And it's fascinating that, according to our sources, around 2/3 of people actually fall into this ambivert category. So being a pure introvert or extrovert might be less common than we think.
That's a really important takeaway. And while ambiverts have that amazing flexibility, they can also face unique challenges. Many ambiverts say they sometimes feel pressure to live up to other people's expectations of their personality, which can be pretty draining.
Yeah, it's like they're constantly trying to adjust to what others think they should be, rather than just being themselves. And it really underscores the point that trying to put people in these rigid categories just doesn't capture the full complexity of human personality.
Absolutely. Most of us exist on a spectrum rather than being strictly one type or another. And also, where someone falls on that spectrum can change over time. Personality isn't necessarily fixed. It can evolve as we gain new experiences and learn more about ourselves.
And we can't forget the role of genetics in our brain's response to dopamine. It sounds like those biological factors play a part in shaping where we tend to land on the introvert-extrovert continuum.
Definitely. And understanding your own position on that spectrum and recognizing the tendencies of others can be incredibly helpful in navigating everyday life. It can help you understand your reactions to different situations, identify the things that bring you joy and energy, and ultimately make choices that lead to a more fulfilling life.
It's about self-awareness and using that knowledge to make choices that align with who you are. But the key is not to see your personality type as a limiting label. It's more like a helpful guidepost as you continue to grow and evolve.
Exactly. Psychologist Adam Grant puts it really well. He says, think of your personality as serving like an anchor. Instead of constraining you, it keeps you from drifting too far as you pursue new possibilities. So it provides stability while still allowing for flexibility and growth.
And if you're curious about exploring your own tendencies, Adam Grant actually has a quiz you can take. It's mentioned in our sources. It could be a good starting point for some self-reflection.
It could be. Now, moving beyond those broad ideas of introversion, extroversion, and ambiversion, there's a specific framework that many people are familiar with for understanding personality. The Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, or MBTI.
The MBTI, yeah, that's a popular one. Seems like it comes up everywhere these days. So what's the deal with the MBTI? What's it all about?
Well, the MBTI is basically a personality framework that builds on Carl Jung's earlier work. It categorizes individuals into 16 distinct personality types based on 4 different pairs of preferences, which they call dichotomies.
Okay, 16 types, that's a lot. So what are these 4 preference pairs that they use to determine your type?
The first is, as we've been talking about, extroversion, or E, versus introversion, or I. That's all about where you direct and receive your energy. Then there's sensing, or S, versus intuition, or N, which describes how you prefer to take in information. Do you focus more on concrete facts and details, or abstract ideas and possibilities?
So sensing is more about what you can directly observe and experience, while intuition is about seeing the bigger picture and the underlying patterns.
Exactly. Then there's thinking, or T, versus feeling, or F, which is about how you make decisions. Are you guided more by logic and objective analysis, or by your values and how your decisions might impact others?
So thinking is more head-driven, while feeling is more heart-driven.
In a way, yeah. And the final pair is judging, or J, versus perceiving, or P. This one relates to how you approach the external world. Do you prefer structure, planning, and organization, or do you prefer flexibility, spontaneity, and keeping your options open?
So judging is about order and predictability, while perceiving is about going with the flow and adapting to change.
Right. So based on your preference in each of those 4 areas, you end up with a 4-letter type, like INFP or ESTJ.
And each of those 16 types has its own unique set of characteristics and tendencies.
Exactly. And it's important to note that the MBTI is based on a self-report questionnaire. So while it's widely used and incredibly popular, some argue that its claims of definitively categorizing individuals are more pseudoscientific.
Okay, so take it with a grain of salt, so to speak. It's a tool for understanding yourself, not a definitive label.
Right. Now, the MBTI was developed during World War II by Catherine Cook Briggs and her daughter, Isabel Briggs Myers, who were deeply inspired by Jung's book on psychological types. And there's actually a more detailed version of the MBTI, which uses a more refined scoring system called the Type Differentiation Indicator, or TDI. This is often used with the longer form J of the MBTI questionnaire.
So there's even more to dive into if you really want to go deep with the MBTI. And our source actually gives a rundown of all 16 types with their 4-letter codes and really descriptive summaries. Like ISTJs are quietly systematic, factual, organized, while ENFPs are enthusiastic, imaginative, energetic. It's amazing how different combinations of those preferences can create such distinct personalities.
It really is. And the key thing to understand about the MBTI is that it's designed to identify your natural preferences, the ways of thinking and behaving that feel most comfortable and natural to you, regardless of what you do for a living or what roles you take on in life.
Now, the MBTI has its fans, but it's also been criticized over the years. What are some of the criticisms?
Well, while it can be a valuable tool for personal development, team building, and even mentoring, it's crucial to remember that it's just that, a tool. It's not a measure of your intelligence, abilities, or mental health, and it shouldn't be used to predict your future success or limit your opportunities.
So it's important to use it thoughtfully and not let it define you or box you in.
Exactly. Our source warns against using the MBTI to label people or make assumptions about their capabilities, like saying, oh, you're an INFP, so you're probably not cut out for leadership. That kind of thinking can really stifle someone's growth.
Yeah, it's reductive and potentially harmful. People are so much more complex than any 4-letter code can capture.
Right. A more holistic approach is always better, where you see the MBTI as just one piece of the puzzle, alongside cultural influences, social contexts, and individual experiences.
It's about seeing the whole person, not just a personality type. And it's interesting that our source also talks about how the MBTI can be relevant within the LGBTQ+ community. It can provide a language for individuals to understand and express their own identities and preferences.
Yeah, it can be a tool for affirming individuality, navigating the complexities of intersectionality, and even fostering allyship. But again, the source cautions against misinterpreting these concepts within the context of broader social and political discussions.
So for people in mentoring or coaching roles, how can they use the MBTI in a way that's both helpful and ethical?
The source emphasizes the importance of self-awareness. Mentors and coaches need to understand their own MBTI preferences and how those might influence their approach. Then it's about creating a safe space where people feel comfortable exploring their MBTI results without judgment.
So it's about using it as a starting point for conversation and self-discovery, not as a way to label or categorize people.
Exactly. The goal is to encourage growth and development, not to limit someone based on their perceived personality type. And remember, empathy, adaptability, and genuine care are at the heart of effective mentorship. The MBTI is just one tool among many.
It's about using it to guide, not to define. Okay, let's switch gears a bit. Our sources also talk about how introvert-extrovert assessments are sometimes used in recruitment and hiring, and there are some definite red flags there.
This is a big one, because while it might seem efficient to quickly categorize job candidates as introverts or extroverts, it can actually lead to biased hiring decisions. Even Carl Jung, the guy who introduced these concepts, had reservations about such a rigid division.
This relying solely on an introvert-extrovert test to make hiring decisions is a bad idea right from the start.
Pretty much. Our source stresses that a fair and effective modern hiring process needs to go way beyond a simple introvert-extrovert test. It should involve a combination of assessments, including other personality tests, cognitive skills tests, behavioral interviews, and open discussions.
So it's about looking at the whole picture, not just one narrow aspect of personality.
Exactly. And remember, employability is a complex mix of skills, knowledge, and personality, with introversion-extroversion being just one small piece of that.
What are some of the specific dangers of relying too heavily on these tests in hiring?
Well, one issue is the cultural bias that often exists, where extroverted traits are seen as more desirable, especially for leadership positions. There are these stereotypes that paint extroverts as natural leaders, salespeople, and so on, while introverts are seen as better suited for more solitary roles.
It's like that old saying, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. But that doesn't mean the quieter wheels aren't just as important.
Right. Our source uses the example of Barack Obama and Julia Roberts, both of whom identify as introverts, to show that introversion doesn't prevent success in highly visible roles. And then there's Benjamin Franklin, a classic extrovert who excelled in a wide range of fields.
So clearly, personality type alone doesn't predict success or ability. And that NASA example about preferring introverts for those Mars missions is a great illustration of how different work environments actually benefit from different personality styles.
Exactly. And then there's the fact that these tests aren't foolproof. Candidates can try to game the system and answer the way they think the employer wants them to answer.
What about once someone is hired? Can those initial test results negatively impact their career development within the company?
Absolutely. There's the risk of typecasting employees and limiting their opportunities based on those initial perceptions. Companies might assume that someone's personality is fixed and not give them a chance to grow or take on new challenges.
It's like they get put in a box and it's hard to break out of it.
Right. And using those tests as a way to justify performance evaluations or promotion decisions can be really damaging. It discourages a growth mindset and can create a culture of limited potential.
Yeah, it sends the message that who you are on day one is who you'll always be.
And that's just not true. Our source also acknowledges the increasing recognition of introverts' value in the workforce, especially with the rise of remote work. Susan Cain's work, particularly her book, Quiet, The Power of Introverts, has been really influential in challenging the cultural bias towards extroversion.
It's about recognizing that both introverts and extroverts have unique strengths and talents to offer.
Exactly. So the bottom line is, an introvert-extrovert test alone is not a good predictor of job performance or overall personality. We're more complex than that.
So instead of trying to put people into these neat little boxes, how can these tests be used more effectively and ethically as part of a broader recruitment process?
The key is to use them thoughtfully and as part of a more holistic assessment. This means using them alongside other personality assessments, cognitive skills tests, and thorough interviews. The results shouldn't be the sole basis for hiring decisions. They should be one data point among many.
It's about gathering information from multiple sources and then using that information to make informed decisions.
Right. And it's crucial to remember that behavioral interviews and customized questions tailored to the specific role are still essential. So don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. Just be cautious and nuanced in how you interpret and apply the results of these tests.
And the source leaves us with some really thought-provoking questions. Are you hiring for speed, or are you hiring for talent? Are you looking for the best fit, or are you just trying to fill a spot quickly? It's definitely something for all hiring managers to consider.
It is.
Well, this has been an incredibly insightful deep dive into the world of introversion, extroversion, and ambiverts. We've covered a lot of ground, from Carl Jung's early theories to modern brain science, and explored the spectrum of these personality types, as well as the strengths and limitations of tools like the MBTI.
Hopefully you, our listeners, now have a better understanding of where you might fall on those spectrums and a deeper appreciation for the diverse ways in which people experience and interact with the world.
Because ultimately, this kind of self-awareness and understanding of others can be incredibly valuable in all aspects of your life.
It can.
So here's a final thought to leave you with. Given that personality is often fluid, and that people with different personality tendencies bring such a diverse array of strengths to the table, how might our current societal structures and workplace norms be unintentionally favoring certain personality types over others? And what valuable contributions and insights might we be missing out on as a result? It's definitely something to ponder. Thanks for joining us, and keep exploring.
Thanks, everyone.